cut, rolling, action. We're good?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Oh, okay. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Explorations. Today we are doing a quick review of the North Face Stormbreak 2 tent. Now you can see it's a little bit drizzly, so I think it's a perfect time to show the capabilities of this tent. This is a two-person tent. For myself, I normally have a three-person tent that I sleep in, and so it's a little bit smaller than what I'm usually used to, but there are a lot of great features about this tent that I will explain to you. First of all, the fly, you can see the water beating off right now. It's a little bit drizzly out here in the backcountry, but no problem, this fly can take it. I forget exactly the specifications of how much water the fly can take. I think it's anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 millimeters, but we'll check it out after when I get home. So Rob, be ready to put in like the correction kind of thing. The tent itself, being a two-person tent, the vestibule, what I found, is a little bit small. But again, I'm used to a three-person tent where there is a large space where I can actually cook in the vestibule if I needed to. But this, I can fit like a 2-3 pairs of shoes kind of width. I'll show that to you in a moment. Pros about this tent. What I really enjoy about this tent, it is actually quite small, so it is great for backpacking. It is relatively light in terms of compared to some other tents like the MSR Hubba Hubba. It is a little bit heavier side, but for myself, I'm not the weight weenie. I'm not an ultralightist, so I'm not too particular on that. The space, the headroom is great inside the tent, which you will see shortly. I think the beating off the tent, you'll notice that there's a kind of the triangular top. It really does allow the water to come down, and so it really does repel the rain off of this tent. And it is called the Stormbreak, so it's supposed to be able to take a lot of beating in weather. The first night that I tested this tent out, there was quite a bit of wind and the airflow inside was quite nice, but it can also stay really warm inside the tent, especially if you have two people inside of it. And so those are some really good pros that I enjoy. The floor itself here, you'll notice that it does go up. You'll see a better shot of it inside the tent, but it's called a bathtub style floor where it actually kind of like cups the bottom of the tent so it doesn't allow rain, water, moisture to seep in. Some other lower quality tents, what you'll see is that there's a seam right at the bottom of the floor, and that would usually have water coming through eventually, despite if there's tape seam or whatever have you, to try and prevent that. Another pro of this tent is the accessibility of the interior pockets. Some of the other tents that we've used and experienced, you actually have to crawl inside to the tent. It becomes really bulky, very weird to do, but the pockets here are very nice, very easily accessible. You don't even have to crawl into the tent. It's just right here. I pull whatever I need out and bam, here it is. I can easily put it back in. Very simple. And that is a great pro about this tent. One thing about the doors that I really like as a pro is I've never seen any tent or any vestibule do this. So typically you have the one side of the door, but this has two sides, and if it's on a really nice day, you can pull this out like an awning and you would get beautiful views of wherever you're at, and this is really a great feature. Another part of this is if you roll it up, you can roll it up halfway and you'll have the tabs here to hook on, You can leave the door halfway open, or you can roll it all the way up to the top. So that is a really unique feature of this vestibule that I have really grown to enjoy. Okay, so another pro of this tent is actually the guy lines. What the points are here, these are the guy lines. You can pull it out in case of a really bad storm, and then you just get the fly pulled out a little bit more so that the water beads off a little bit easier. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 extra guying out points that you can pull out on this tent, let alone the fly at the bottom here. So I think that would be very appropriate in very high winds and really help the tent provide a little bit more structure. Okay, some cons of the tent. Because this is a two-person tent, it is a little bit smaller, and for myself, as I mentioned, I am used to a three-person tent even when I go solo camping because, well, that's all I had. And so with another person inside, it can become a little bit cozy, so hopefully you enjoy the company of your partner. Another con that I would like to talk about, and this actually started really annoying me relatively quickly. As great as it is to have this rain fly over the zipper, it's also the worst thing to open and close a tent, especially when it starts coming down and you want to open the door quickly and then it gets caught. It becomes really frustrating. And so what I've in the little bit of time I've actually used this tent the past 2 days, I would have to continuously pull this fly, this flap open, just to make sure it doesn't get caught. But as you can see already, it's once you pull it down, it's starting to get caught, especially when the fly drops down in this particular way. And so you have to continuously make sure that this flap is on the outside of the zipper, because again, there it is. It gets caught immediately like that. So that becomes pretty annoying. One other con of this tent that I didn't really realize until it started raining is the collection of the water on top here. Even though you have the DWR repellency, even though it is slanted, there is this collection here of water. You'd have to kind of pull it out a little bit. You can guy it out, but then the lines here become, in the way. But that collection of water right here, if it continues to downpour a lot over the course of a couple of days, there may be a potential. Now, I don't know, again, what the, I forget it, like 5,000 millimeters, and there's also the hydrostatic pressure of the water just sitting on top, eventually seeping through. Because even though it's waterproof to a certain extent. And in this little drizzle, we haven't had the opportunity to test out how much of an extent this may cause an issue. But it does collect, and that is one thing that I'm wary of. I'm always wary of having water being collected around the tent. The vestibule, like I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit small, so I'll give you a quick look inside the vestibule. So you'll see here, for I guess reference sake, like you've got a pair of sandals and the vestibule ends about here, and so you can only put a couple of pairs of shoes in. I've got an axe in there and a few other things, but like it's really not that big. On beautiful sunny days, yeah, you could pull this out again like an awning, and you'll get a lot more space to play with. But when it's raining and you don't have any other setup to cook anywhere else, never cook in your tent. So I will not advocate for that, but the few times that I do cook in a vestibule, it is really small for that purpose, and I most likely would never cook inside the vestibule for this tent, which you shouldn't be doing anyway. But if you did, I wouldn't recommend cooking inside the vestibule here just because of the size of it. con. Tent pegs. These are not the greatest tent pegs, which is fine. Tent pegs are very easily accessible in aftermarkets, but these are the kind of tent pegs like this, just a straight one. If you need to hammer it down, it doesn't really provide a significant amount of support in high winds. This can probably pull out quite easily. Some of the tent pegs that you would like to look for, it has like a flute shape and it stakes in. And so it provides a lot more anchoring support, but something like this, it is not the best kind of tent peg to have. So here's a look of inside the tent. You'll notice that the two people in here can be pretty cozy or tight, however way you want to look at it. The headspace is alright. You can sit up and there's still a bit of room, and then it peaks higher into the middle, but at the edge here it's alright. You can still get some headspace. Pockets. You've got pockets. These are the deepest pockets I've ever seen in a tent. They are great for losing things into the dark abyss of deep pockets as they do. I do wish though they had another set of pockets in here at the foot and the head of the tent. That would really help. What looks like you can get is an additional gear loft with these hooks at the corners as an accessory to the tent, so you can slip things into the top of the tent to keep things out of the way. So the floors also come up a little bit to there, so the waterproofing can stop the rain. But then here is another set of a wall essentially that will help prevent splashback from the ground when the storm gets, or if a storm hits and things are kind of bouncing off the ground. This whole thing is mesh all the way up to the ceiling, which is just a nylon ceiling, but you have mesh all the way around the tent, which I can't do with this camera, but believe me, there is mesh all around the tent. And so folks, there you have it. This is the North Face Stormbreak 2. Some very quick pros. It's very accessible, doors, vestibules, great for two people backpacking. The tent fly, the floor, they all work very well together to keep out a lot of rain, moisture, especially in hard storms. I think and I believe that it would keep things from bouncing back up and into the tent. You've got extra support for guy lines. You have headroom in the tent as well. So those are some quick pros. Some quick cons: the vestibule door itself, that rain flap, is a little bit finicky, hard to kind of manage. Sometimes the water stays on the tent here itself. It's a little bit heavier than some of the ultralight backpacking tents, but that's not a huge con for myself. So there you have it, folks. This is the North Face Stormbreak 2 tent. If you enjoyed this review, please give us a like. Please also subscribe. That will help us out very much. Also leave in the comments what you enjoy about this tent, what tent you use, and what other content you would like us to review or see in this video. But that's it for today. This is Ian signing off.